Have you ever experienced something that you felt was so wrong, so unprofessional, or just so morally incorrect? Have you ever found yourself left holding the aftermath of someone else's decisions or lack thereof? Have you ever been in a situation where you had an inner conflict of, should I address this or is it even worth it? As someone who has gone through life letting a lot of things slide and constantly taking things on the chin in an attempt to keep the peace, I'm learning that sometimes it's necessary to make your voice heard. Now, I'm not talking about giving everyone a piece of your mind. I'm talking about using wisdom and discernment to decipher the difference between what needs to be addressed versus what just needs to be left alone. I believe that if you constantly go through life feeling like everyone needs to get a piece of your mind for every single infraction, you'll end up living in a constant state of offense. And as a result, you'll become emotionally and mentally exhausted. I'm also not speaking of the constant turn the other cheek. While it may be necessary, avoiding confrontation sometimes sets the tone for others that you may be a doormat, that they can do any and everything to you without consequence, and you should just continue to take it. I'm talking about the kind of wisdom and discernment that knows when to advocate for yourself versus when to let the Lord fight your battles. There is a middle ground, and that middle ground is called assertive communication. Now, let's get it understood. There are three forms of communication I want to briefly run through. So, the first is passive communication. Now, passive communication says, I'll sacrifice my voice to preserve your comfort, meaning I won't speak up because I just want to keep the peace. I don't want to start conflict. I don't want no troubles. I don't want no problems, okay? And you tend to just hold it all in because you don't want to upset anyone. I don't want to shake tables, okay? And I must admit, that's mostly how I've been. The second form of communication I want to touch on is aggressive communication. Now, aggressive communication says, I'll sacrifice your dignity to preserve my own feelings. So I don't care how you feel. You just gonna hear me out. My feelings is the only ones that matter. I don't care about your feelings. That's not my problem. But my feelings are your problem. My feelings matter to me and they should matter to you. And that is it and that is all. Okay, that is very unhealthy and it's extremely selfish. All right, and then the third form of communication I want to touch on is assertive communication. This is actually the healthier communication. I know the word assertive doesn't always come over well. Assertive and aggression are not the same thing. They are not one and the same. Assertive, when you think of the word assertive, think of the word firm. So I can be firm, which means I can be assertive, but I'm not being aggressive and I'm not being rude. I am being firm, okay? And assertive communication simply says, I can honor my feelings without dishonoring yours. I can honor your feelings without dishonoring myself. According to Psychology Today, assertiveness is a social skill that heavily relies on effective communication while respecting the thoughts and wishes of others. People who communicate assertively know how to communicate their thoughts, their feelings, and set boundaries, but they do not make demands of others or lash out when they can't have their way. So if someone doesn't do what they're supposed, if someone doesn't do what they want them to do, they're not just lashing out, right? So Psychology Today then goes on to explain that people who communicate assertively tend to experience less anxious thoughts under stress. They are firm without being rude, and they react with emotion without being aggressive or passive, okay? I find the concept of assertive communication to be interesting because so many of us have been taught that speaking up against something or someone was disrespectful. Like, it did not matter how you said it, Just you saying it was disrespectful, especially in that parent-child dynamic. A lot of parents with the old school mentality follow the do as I say, not as I do rule, the because I said so rule, and the children should be seen and not heard rule, and the whatever goes on in this house stays in this house rule. I believe this is why so many adults do not know how to communicate assertively. It's funny because the ones who think they do are usually aggressive communicators. Let's be honest, some people who say, I'm just keeping it real, are actually just keeping it rude. Personally, I've been a passive or avoidant type of communicator for most of my life. I would stay silent, keep it to myself, keep it all in, even if it was worth speaking on, or I would speak up with sarcasm, which is still a form of passive communication. Once I realized I was holding in way too much to preserve the feelings of others while suppressing my own feelings, my perspective changed. I realized that preserving someone else's feelings shouldn't require suppressing my own. There is enough room for your feelings and mine, and I don't have ownership over anyone else's feelings besides my own. So recently, I applied for a position with a Fortune 10 company. I will not mention it by name because I am not here to promote or bash anyone's business. I received an email to complete an interview with the recruiter. This was about a month ago. When it comes to interviews, especially for positions I actually take an interest in, my overthinking just skyrockets. So I'm thinking, what am I going to wear for this interview? Even if it is virtual, what am I going to wear? What will they ask me? And I start mentally preparing for those infamous tell me a time when questions. I attended the interview. Everything went great. The recruiter informed me that I would hear from him within 1 to 2 weeks regarding the next steps. The recruiter even sent me an email with the benefits package to review. After the first month of hearing nothing, I just moved on. I started setting my eyes on other opportunities and putting my energy into building Lauren Unfolded. It is what it is. Like, I'm not, life goes on. This morning, over a month after having the interview, I received a random ATS generated Dear John email. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, ATS is basically the AI system that employers use now for reviewing applications and sending denials when they feel like you don't meet the criteria. So this morning I received a random Dear John email. It was ATS generated, so which means that it was not formal or anything. It was just like, hey, thank you, but no thanks. So it said, thank you for your interest. We found someone else, blah, blah, blah. So the rejection was not the problem. I've been rejected all my life, if I'm being honest. It was the way it happened. I didn't just submit an application and it just sat in the system until ATS finally gave me the boot. I met with someone. I talked to someone. We shared small talk regarding details about our lives. At this point, we friends. We homies. I believe the deeper the interaction gets in an interview process, the deeper the communication should be. If I met with a human should be telling me in a timely manner that I was not it, that I was not selected. I wasn't angry. I've created enough rejection emails to create a book the size of an encyclopedia. This is just different. And if I'm being honest, it felt extremely unprofessional from such a reputable company. So I did something I had never done before. Went back to the email the recruiter sent last month containing the benefits information, and I hit reply. I kindly and professionally explained what happened and how unprofessional it was. I wasn't begging for the job. Honestly, by now the thrill was gone. But the future candidates certainly deserve better, especially from a Fortune 10 company with a prestigious reputation. I was nervous now because this is outside of my character because I didn't know what to expect. So I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect, but I had nothing to lose. No more than an hour after sending the email, the recruiter called me. I answered. He was extremely apologetic. The ATS system was supposed to send out the rejection email a week after I had an interview. He took accountability, which is shocking these days. He sincerely apologized. He even extended the offer of contacting him personally if I ever found another position that interests me on the site. Had I not spoken up, he may have never known that the communication I was supposed to receive over a month ago actually didn't reach me until more than a month later. This situation reminded me that advocating for myself is not beef, it's self-care. Healthy confrontation is necessary. You don't have to curse people out, become belligerent, make threats just to make someone understand your point of view. Had I contacted that recruiter, given him a piece of my mind, being belligerent, I probably would have been blacklisted or something. Now I'm going to take it to the text because that's just what we do here on Let's Get It Understood with Lauren. So Colossians 4:6 reminds us to let your speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt. Sometimes it's not what you do, but how you do it. Sometimes it's not what you say, but how you say it. Your feelings are valid, but your delivery can ruin the entire message. Proverbs 29:11, which states, "A fool uttereth his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in afterwards." You don't have to blurt out everything that crosses your mind. What if I accused that man of holding on to my application for over a month? What if I accused him of lying or simply playing in my face? That's nasty work. Sending my professional email with feedback and leaving my emotions out of the equation was the best decision. I didn't go on a tangent accusing him of whatever came to mind or calling him names. I basically sent an email saying this is not cool and it's unacceptable. Just because you're thinking it doesn't mean it needs to come out of your mouth or that it should translate through text or an email. If you're truly curious, ask the questions to gain an understanding. Express your concerns and thoughts respectfully. But attacking people, especially without proof, is one of the unhealthiest forms of communication and often makes the situation worse. So remember, keeping it real doesn't mean keeping it rude. Keeping the peace doesn't mean holding it inside. And having a voice and having self-control can definitely coexist. You can honor others' feelings without dishonoring your own. Assertive communication is healthy communication, and you can speak up without burning it down. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please like and subscribe to our YouTube and Spotify pages. Share with a friend who may need help with understanding how to communicate assertively. I will see you again on the next episode of Let's Get It Understood with Lauren. Bye.